So this is the third hangout. This is for module 3. And module 3 was pretty cool. I really like the content of this module. I'm looking forward to talking about it. Kimberly, you said you had a couple of things to share, a couple of videos to share to start out with. Is that right? Or do you have something else you'd like to do first?
I would like to share a couple of videos. So this training was done in 2017. And since then, we've had some progression in the technology part of our acupuncture field. And I would like to share, let me just get my screen available here. I would like to share some videos that have been made regarding our, let's see, laser was the first thing we talked about in this training.
Well, hello and welcome everybody to today's webinar. We are excited to have you here and excited to introduce Kimberly Thompson, soon to be Dr. Kimberly Thompson. Hi, Kimberly.
Hello.
Glad to have you with us today. Today's webinar.
So actually, this is not a 1 minute, this is a 1 hour. So we have a full webinar on laser therapy. So you've watched our training where we give you some bits of information. And if you want to learn more on laser therapy, we're actually going to put this, once the recording is done, we're going to have this link. I can put it in the chat right now, or maybe Kara could do that. We're going to have this link down in the bottom of our, in the comment section on our YouTube video when this is recorded. So I'm guessing that maybe these others are not 1 minute. I thought I was showing a few 1 minute videos.
Yeah, you talked to me this morning and said, oh, I've got one that's like 1 minute and 10 seconds and one that's 1 minute and 30 seconds. I thought, great, 1 minute videos, that'll be awesome. Turns out they were 1 hour.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'll just go to the Stimplus Pro. I think that, again, this is another one.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are full webinars. So these are available to you that you can watch later. And so I won't go there right now.
Oh, and Kara's putting the links up in the comments. And so those will be some great resources for things you can watch later.
So I'm just curious, let's see, we have quite a few participants. I'm curious, based on our group today, how many of you have actually watched Module 3 and you're here with questions, or you're here ahead of the game watching this module or this Q&A before you've watched. So Adrian's watched it.
Yeah, go ahead and put in comments whether you've watched it or not. And then we will kind of jump into the content and start taking questions on it. While people are answering that, I'd also like to know one other thing about you. I'd like to know how many of you are currently using at least one non-needle technique in your practice and what it is. So if you're using laser or electric stim or vibration or pressure or any other non-needle therapy, what is it? So go ahead and throw that in the comments as well. While you're doing that, I will just mention a quick note about my history with lasers. This is something I shared before. I don't know that I shared it in this module, but I got introduced to lasers when I was still in school. And the lasers that I was introduced to were rather expensive. And being a bit of an electronics nerd, I started looking around to find a way to get a laser with the same output, but for less money. And I found out that if I went straight to a manufacturer, I could order lasers in bulk. I could get them at a fraction of the cost that I was being told by, other companies, and that they had, the same output, the same wavelength, the same light as these more expensive lasers. And so I was still a student, and I placed an order. The minimum order they would take was, I believe it was 20 lasers. And so I put it all on my credit card. I spent all this money, kind of maxed out this credit card, and bought 20 of these lasers. And this would be like back in 2001 or 2002. And then I started asking other students whether they were interested in getting a laser at a great price. Anyway, long story short, I managed to sell all 20 of those like within a week, and it all went well, and everybody won because we all got lasers at a great price. But that was my introduction to the world of lasers, and my introduction to the fact that lasers come at all different price points, and often you get the same thing regardless of what you pay. So that was where it all started for me, and I've been using lasers ever since. Absolutely love them. It's always been a lifetime fascination for me, starting in high school when lasers were the size of briefcases. So let's see what we got on the comments. Go
We
ahead.
have lots of people using lasers and different modalities in their clinic, and that's exciting to me. I'm curious. So we obviously know that if you're using different techniques to treat your patient, you have a specialty, right? You have a specialty that is beyond somebody who just uses needles. Do any of you have any other specific specialties in your clinic? I have a friend that I'm going to introduce here in a moment who has a specialty. In my clinic, I do, my specialty is fibromyalgia and fibromyalgia, emotions, and chronic pain, and obviously non-needle techniques and acugraph. But I'm curious if you have specialty, something that you are drawn to in your clinic. So we've got a biofeedback.
Yeah, I'm just reading through these comments. Wow. Lots of great stuff going on here. Very cool.
Cancer support, emotional issues, orthopedics, teens, smoking cessation, pain, pediatrics, and OBGYN.
Cool.
Fantastic. So last night when I was watching videos to prepare for today, I was recognizing that one of your test questions brought up, used the name of one of my friends and colleagues in the actual test question. And then I talked about her techniques and what she does with pediatrics while I was teaching. And you may know that in future symposiums, we've actually had my friend Robin Green come and teach her specialty to pediatrics. So I thought, since we were talking about non-needle techniques, I would invite her to come personally today. So I have Robin Green. I'm going to allow her to unmute yourself, Robin. Come on, talk to us and tell us some of your experience with non-needle techniques, and even what got you to begin using non-needle techniques in your clinic.
Thank you so much for inviting me here today, Kimberly. I am a huge fan of non-needle techniques because I ended up specializing in pediatrics. And it's funny, when I was actually in acupuncture school, I was going to be in orthopedics. My background is in exercise science. I wanted to work with athletes and pain conditions. And who knew I would end up having a child who had eczema that took me in a completely different direction from that. And so as I began to work with kids, I realized that I needed more than needles because not every child was going to let me needle them. And in addition, I had a lot of very needle sensitive patients, and maybe particular points that when they would come up on the graph, I was like, well, I don't really feel comfortable needling that point, but I want to be able to balance it. And so I looked for ways that I could do that. And one of my favorite ways became using lasers, using the red laser when I needed to tonify, and then using a blue laser when I needed to sedate or break up chi stagnation. And so those became a really big part of my treatment in order to balance kids. And in the beginning, I felt like, is this even going to work? I mean, I just put this little laser on for 30 seconds. Is that even going to do anything? And I had this one case really early on in my career with a little girl that would not let me do any needling. And we only used laser. She was actually my first patient that I tested it out on, and she had recurrent pneumonia. And it was fantastic. I mean, week over week, she got similar results to what I would expect if I was treating someone with the needles. And that sort of began my real love for lasers. And they just like kids love it. We can do a lot of playful things with lasers. We're like, ooh, look, you're glowing. And we turn down the lights and they can see their point light up, and that gets them really excited. And then they ask for the lasers. So it's fun too.
That's awesome. Robin, will you, when I was talking about you, when I was teaching, one of the things that we were talking about was using the Stimplus Pro on the ear.
Mm-hmm.
And when we teach people how to use the Stimplus Pro, there are multiple frequencies, but you taught me about how you use the Stimplus Pro on the ear and why you chose the Stimplus Pro versus other devices, because there's a lot of microcurrent devices on the market that you can use. And I remember you sharing with me something about pinchy and reasons why you chose the Stimplus Pro versus other devices.
Yes. Well, first of all, the Stimplus Pro is the lightest device on the market. And when you're trying to work on a wiggly child, it can be hard if you're holding a heavy device and having to press really hard. The other thing that it does is that you can set it to stimulate for 15 seconds or 30 seconds. So that, like, a lot of times I'm treating and talking to the parents at the same time. So if I'm mentally having to be like, oh, how long has it been 30 seconds? Like, it just kind of, it allowed me to just set and treat very efficiently. On the ear, sometimes if kids are really sensitive, they will feel the stimulation from the Stimplus Pro. But what is great is you can use it to just find the points and then pop an ear seed on to the spot that really needs it. So, and it's just one of my favorite tools. If I'm choosing to use the microcurrent, the Stimplus Pro is hands down my favorite tool to use on kids because it's so easy and lightweight to use. And I set it to 5 hertz. Mm-hmm. I find that is the setting that is hands down the easiest for kids to tolerate for body points.
I know that there was a time when we weren't able to get the Stimplus Pro and we were looking at all the other devices on the market and trying to come up with a good device. And my frustration when I would test out these other devices is I could be treating, and based on where you keep your hands, you could accidentally be increasing the sensitivity on the ear, increasing the hertz, right? Yes, the part where it hurts. Anyway, increasing that on the ear while you're pressing a button, and it goes higher and higher and higher, and you definitely don't want to zap a child when you've accidentally pushed up a frequency. So I really like how simple this is. Once you put it where you want it to be and then you treat, it stays exactly there. You're not going to accidentally push a button while you are treating the child.
Yeah, and I've taught a lot of practitioners how to use lasers and how to use the Stimplus Pro in their practice. And one thing I will say is that we have a tendency to feel like we need to press these devices really hard on the person. And you don't. You can just lay it there, like right on the point. It just can lay right there. You don't have to press it hard. It doesn't make it work any better. It's just, it makes it more comfortable for the patient. So if you are using those, especially on sensitive patients or kids, just remember you don't have to press hard.
So, quick question for you, Robin. While you're here, I happen to know that you do an excellent job in training and mentoring. You have a course for acupuncture pediatrics. And although you're here as a guest, I'd like you to put in a shameless plug for the work you do. Is there anything you'd like people to know who are interested in pediatrics and who want more training?
Absolutely. So if you want more training, you can visit my website at acupuncturepediatrics.com. And right there on the front of the website, you can take my free training course that just gives you some basics to get you started. And then if you go into my course catalog, I've got all of my different trainings there. I think one that might be really helpful for people right now is my asthma course. I'm also a specialist. That's if I were to even specialize even further down in pediatrics, pediatric asthma is one of my specialties. And so that would be a course right now that might be helpful for people with both their adult patients and their pediatric patients to manage respiratory health and help them no matter, what kind of issues may come up, especially if they're recovering from the coronavirus.
Very cool. And yeah, I happen to know from personal firsthand experience with a family member that Robin is very good with asthma. So if you're interested in that topic, I'd recommend you learn what she has to teach. So thank you so much, Robin.
Robin, I also see your book behind you.
Oh,
Do you want to show us your book?
Oh, of course. Yes. So you can also pick up my book. It's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and places worldwide. Heal Your Child from the Inside Out, the 5-element way to nurturing healthy, happy kids. And it's really just my philosophy on using the 5 elements to help us understand our kids and help them to have restore their health. Many children, I think, in this country fall into the unwellness gap where they're not totally sick, but they're not totally healthy either. And the book is designed to help parents, take their child and help wherever they're at and help them become healthier, body, mind, and spirit. So thank you for reminding me about that, Kimberly.
And your book is geared not towards practitioners, although obviously if you're a practitioner, it goes into the 5 elements, so you will fully understand it, but it's written to the parents, and that's what I love. She's educating the parents based on our Chinese medicine philosophies, and I have daughters with children, and they continually come to me. They have Robin's book, and they say, Mom, I think my daughter, they'll tell me what element they think that they're growing into, so it's fun.
Yeah.
So I know that you can't stay on. If anybody has any specific questions for Robin, please post them. Robin has some other meetings that she needs to be into today. So if you have any questions, otherwise be sure you grab the link that we've put over in the comments. Kara posted it, Robin's link to her website, and I highly recommend getting to know Robin more, especially if you're interested in pediatrics.
And I'm also wanted to recommend people, if they do want to sign up, I am beginning a group coaching program for practitioners who want to be able to do telehealth or coaching for any specialty, not just pediatrics. So if you guys are interested in that, feel free to email me, and I will type in my email address in the chat. You feel free to reach out to me, and I can let you know when I have that program up and running, which will be in the next couple of weeks.
Robin, there was one question. It says, what was the name of the class for respiratory for adults and kids?
Yes, it's reversing asthma, reversing pediatric asthma with Chinese medicine is the name of the class. I'll put a link in for that as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you guys for having me.
Real pleasure as always, Robin. Thank you. We have some really cool people in the community around here. Robin's just one of them, and we really appreciate everyone's participation. This is one of the bonuses of all being quarantined, right? So next, I thought what we could do. We had some great topics in the module this week, or this time. I guess there's 2 this week. We talked a lot about electric stim, we talked a lot about laser and light therapy, and then we talked a lot about vibrational therapy. And so those are kind of the topics on the table today. And unless you have anything specific you want to present, Kimberly, we can go ahead and open it up for questions on any of those topics and just get right to it.
How about we go one topic at a time? Let's start with laser therapy, and we can share some stories and get questions. And so if you have questions about laser therapy, let's maybe start there. I would like to share what I am doing at home for self-care during this time. I find that I find that if I will treat the source points on my body, if you're intuitive, you know, when you put a needle in and you can feel the flow of energy in your body. I'm going to teach you something that I like to do. I will do this if I'm sitting in a meeting or if I'm sitting at home, even watching TV, but I'm going to show you through the eyes of Acugraph. So I'm going to share my screen for a moment. And I'm going to go here and I'm going to open my Acugraph. If we will go on the energy cycle. So once you open your Acugraph and you click on energy cycle, you have the first pathway, which goes all the way to the last pathway. And I like to take my laser, you can see me in the box as well as my Acugraph screen, right? I like to take my laser and treat my source point. And sometimes I just like to close my eyes and just feel where energy is moving in my body. It's kind of a fun little exercise here to deal with your intuition, but I'm going to show you how technology can help you build that. If you click on the lung channel, you can see the muscular, you can see the channel, you can see the muscular pathway, but then you can see the internal pathways. So when you are treating lung, when you are treating your source point, lung 9, and if you can just imagine where the chi is going inside of your body, do you see how it affects the throat and the chest and the stomach and the intestines? It's really fun to use your laser to treat your source points and then recognize where the chi is going. It helps you to have a better visual of what's happening in the internal pathways, to know the work that you're doing. These internal pathways, I think we forget. I like to teach how when you're treating the lung channel and people say, well, what if my patient has knee pain and nothing shows up? Well, look at the internal pathway of the large intestine channel, how it, if you look at the channel itself, how it takes the finger and up to the nose, and then you look at the channel muscularly and how it affects all the way back into the scapula and up over the head. But if you go internal and you recognize that that pathway also comes all the way down into the knees, as you understand your internal pathways, you will have a greater understanding of diagnostics and patient education and understanding where chi goes. So I like to play with my laser, play with my source points, feel the energy, and then actually look at the internal pathways and educate myself in that way so that my intuition can be greater when I'm on the table. I'm not sure if that helps, but it's a fun thing that I like to do.
And you brought up an interesting thing, Kimberly, that there are some people who can feel laser. And when I first encountered this, I thought, there's no way that's possible, because I can't, I'll be honest. I don't feel the light. But there's a certain percentage of your patients that you'll encounter that you use laser on a point and they'll actually feel it and they'll tell you, oh, that's going up my arm or something like that. And so all I can do is just be in awe of those people. And Kimberly's one of them. She's an intuitive. She can feel the energy shifts in her own body and in her patient's body.
Well,
so
and one of the things you taught me, it's funny that you say you don't feel it, but you taught me this. Maybe you learned it from someone else. So you taught me that when I am treating a point, to feel it, and then when you think you're not feeling it anymore, do a slight shift, and then you'll feel it again.
yeah, and the shifting is kind of with angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one little tip that perhaps doesn't get emphasized enough. One of the cool things about laser, as opposed to electric, and electric is cool too, don't get me wrong, but one thing I love about laser is the fact that when you're treating a point, you can actually angle, just like you could angle a needle for needle insertion. And so you have different ways and even multiple angles at one time that you can test, that you can feel, and get the maximum result. And if you've got some intuition, some ability to feel that, or O-ring testing, muscle testing, other ways to get feedback from the body, that angle does change things, just like angling a needle.
If you were using your finger and you were feeling for that exact angle where you would put a needle in, it really, you can begin to feel this right through the laser. one of the places that I like to play with the laser or a needle or any device that I'm using, I like to go to spleen 6, because we know that spleen 6 is a crossing point for liver, kidney, and spleen, right? So there's 3 different areas. Instead of going directly straight into spleen 6, I might go to spleen 6 and point it more towards the liver, maybe towards the spleen, and then over towards the kidney. And the body will tell me which angle to get the better results. So while you're home during this time, if you will play with your laser and begin to feel, it'll open up a whole new avenue for you when you're on the treatment table. If you want to feel coming in at GV20 at the top of your head, it is the most profound area. All acupuncture pathways cross at GV20, right? And it is the most profound area to feel it completely open up. Patients love it. You could practice this on your kids. You could practice this on yourself. This is a great place to begin to feel. And then take the different points and then go into your quiet meditative space and practice. Begin asking your body, where do I feel this? And begin to feel the shifts. It's really quite fun.
So, and I see somebody's trying it right now.
Yeah.
Very cool. It's one of the benefits of having video on.
What do you feel?
Marina. So there's a question here. Somebody asked, Kimberly, do you measure yourself before using laser?
I will measure myself. So sometimes if I am just needing a treatment and haven't had time, I will measure myself and I will quickly treat my points and then move on with my day. If I am, sometimes I will treat with laser to kind of get things moving, and then to expand the treatment as I'm going throughout the day, I'll stick a tack on those particular points. And I have gone back the next day to remeasure and had almost a perfect graph just by self-treating. So it's a valuable resource. You'll see my makeshift clinic. This isn't my real clinic. This is my home clinic. During this time, once we realized that we were going to have to be on lockdown, I went directly to my clinic and I grabbed everything that I could so that I could be treating from home. During the day, I lay on my Jade Vitality mat. I will treat myself with lasers. I will go into meditation, and if I feel like energy stuck in my chest, I will treat my chest. One of the let's see, I wrote a blog post, and I think I talked about it in the seminar. Let's see, let me take my screen down. Let's go over here. I really like to treat chakras with the laser. So I will treat the root chakra from kidney 1 at the bottom of the feet. And then I like to use these different points to balance the chakras with my laser. And this is one of my favorite things to do with laser. As you get more into advanced treatment, I will balance the graph. And then if it's a wellness patient and they just are doing some emotional balancing, I'll do some treatment to balance the graph. And then I will just take my laser and I will balance chakras all the way up and then leave them to sit in the treatment room. And that's just a fun addition. I have a blog post that I've written about this, and I'll ask Kara if she'll post it down in the comments, where I talk about balancing the chakras, but it's really powerful to do with the laser treatment.
We also, along with that, we have a free report called The Top 4 Myths About Laser Acupuncture that Kimberly wrote. And it's another great resource. It's free. You can download it. Shireen private messaged me the link, but I'm going to ask her to go ahead and put that link in the public chat to everybody, and you can grab that report if you'd like. So meanwhile,
we have several questions about the lasers. Let's answer some of these questions. Good idea.
Taraz asks, is the red laser 50 hertz? Let me start with that one.
Yes.
And in a nutshell, when we talk about hertz, hertz is a unit that measures how many times per second something happens. So if you have If you clap your hands once per second, that's 1 hertz. If I clap twice per second, that's 2 hertz, 2 cycles per second. And so the question says, is your laser 50 hertz? And what that would mean is the laser turning on and off 50 times per second? And the answer is no. The lasers that we use stay on constantly. They do not turn on and off any number of times per second, but they stay on constantly. And there's different parameters besides hertz. There's the power, that's in milliwatts. There's the wavelength, that's the color of the laser, and that's measured in nanometers. But in terms of hertz, how many times does it turn on and off per second? The answer is it does not. It stays on until you turn it off. So I hope that clears up, but if not, then ask follow-up questions and we'll get to the heart of what you're asking.
And recognize that we are going to share the full webinars that are specific on lasers and microcurrent. We'll share those if you want to dig in deeper and know those to a more extreme level. So
Hey. Oh,
can
go
we
ahead.
measure ourselves? And I did answer that.
Yeah, you can graph yourself, you can measure yourself, absolutely.
Okay, and then Amy asked Kimberly, do you find a difference using red versus blue laser on your source points? So I am pretty sure in this training that I taught that if you didn't want to use a tonification or sedation point, you could use the source point. So if I am graphing myself and I have a channel that's excess and I want to calm the channel down, I will use the blue laser to calm the channel down. So the blue laser, if you have a red acupuncture pathway that's high, the blue laser will calm it down. If I have an acupuncture pathway that's deficient, the red laser will tonify it and bring it back up. So if I'm graphing myself and treating based with laser, I could treat the tonification point and sedation point recommended in AccuGraph, but I could also treat the source point. And so that's when I would use the different lasers. If I'm just sitting and playing with lasers to feel the shifts and changes in my body, you could use either one, but I tend to use the red.
Cool.
Okay. Robin loves the chart. What laser do you use for the chakras? Okay, so for the chakras, it'll depend on, you can use just the red laser and treat the chakras and get good results. Before we had blue laser, red laser was the only one that we had, and we got great results. If you're really proficient at feeling chakras, like this chakra is stuck and there's excess and this chakra is deficient, and that is something that you're good at feeling, if the chakra feels empty, use the red laser to fill it up. If the chakra feels full, use the blue chakra to calm it down. So just depending, if that is something that you're good at feeling, then you could differentiate the lasers. But if you just want to treat the chakras based on the points that I showed you, just go for the red. I use these on my grandkids. If I can get a grandchild to lay on the floor, and I will treat all of their points and giggle and laugh with them. It's quite fun. When should I use laser versus LED light, and which ones do you recommend? Well, in our training, we talked about LED lights, right, Adrian? We had the all lights.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't carry those any longer, and so I use lasers. The all lights are still a good product, and you would use the same concept for red versus blue. Lasers will get directly into the acupuncture point. So think of a tiny little acupuncture point, and you're trying to use a laser to get into that pathway and to move chi. The lasers are more specific for that. And when I was teaching about all lights, I was using them more for a broad spectrum on a muscular level. And I believe you could still find those online, but we don't carry them.
Well, I would add that's a great summary. Yeah, lasers pinpoint, they get into the meridians, they move chi. LEDs, broad area, not for specifically stimulating a single point. I would add that now the LED lights that we carry the Fotizo line, which is more capable than what the Alight was doing. And what the Fotizos do is that they have not only red light, but they also have infrared light. So you get the effects of both at the same time. And we have one for veterinary. We also have one for humans. The human one is for pain relief. Ah, there, Kimberly's got it. And so it's pretty cool because it's one touch. You put it on the place, you hit the button. It's not really for acupuncture points, but it's more for local tissue. So if you have pain, inflammation in a local area, then you put the Fotizo there, you push the button. It gives a pre-programmed treatment with specific frequencies. That's where it is turning the lights on and off at a specific frequency, which promotes circulation, diminishes pain, improves inflammation, helps cells not only bring in nutrients, but get rid of cellular debris, increases ATP production, all of the great benefits of red light. And so that's what we use for LEDs. Two different approaches, both really beneficial, each for its specific thing that you use it for. Go ahead,
So
Kimberly. I see you got something.
yeah, so I just wanted to show you, if you were thinking in the way of looking through Acugraph, so if I'm showing you the channel pathway, you're seeing the small intestine channel and how it comes all the way up through the shoulders, through the neck, and through the ear. If I'm treating these individual points, I'm using the laser because I'm trying to get into the pathway through the acupuncture point. But if I'm trying to calm down a muscular region, so notice the small intestine pathway has this muscular region, I can use my Fotizo along the muscular region to calm the inflammation, to calm the muscle, to give that muscle the nourishment that it needs. I'm going to show you also the bladder channel. So just think of the work that you can do along the bladder channel. Here's the channel for individual points. But if I really want to get this broad muscular area of the channel, then I would use my Fotizo. Does that help?
Great summary. Thanks, Kimberly. Tara's asked a follow-up question, said, so is the red laser 50 milliwatt? So she asked before about the hertz, now it's the milliwatt. And the answer there is actually the lasers that we typically deal with are 5 milliwatt, not 50. 5 milliwatt lasers are class 3A lasers. In the seminar, I talk about high power versus low power, and I use the analogy of whispering versus shouting. And these are on the whispering side of things. Just give the chi a little nudge, a little direction. And it's similar to how you can needle. You can do very light needling, or you can do very heavy stimulation with the needle. Both are effective for certain things. But I like the low power lasers for safety, for effectiveness, and for price. They win on all three of those. And the heavy duty, the 3B lasers, where you can have mandatory eye protection, where you can spend thousands of dollars for a laser, I don't know that they get any better results. So 5 milliwatt is what we recommend.
So Jared Adlington says, I had the LED lights, but didn't get the results with them that I had hoped. Are the lasers more effective? So I'm just curious, I'm pretty sure that what he is referring to were the all lights versus the Fotizo. Is that correct, Jared?
Yes. Yep.
So that's one of the reasons we love the Fotizo came later. The all lights came first, the Fotizo came later, and we get excellent results with the Fotizo. I have a new puppy, and I'll bring her in by the time we end this and show you. But I've been using the Fotizo on her little belly as she's I use it on her belly and down her spine as she has left the mama and the tribe and come to our house. And since I started using the Fotizo, she doesn't cry in the night. She's so happy. So it's been a fun extra that we have. And then I love to use the human care one on my grandchildren. Great for resolving stomach issues. I will use it muscular issues to calm down inflammation. So that's how I'm using them in my clinic.
And I would add that the All-Lights, they were very nice high-powered LEDs that you would turn on and they would just stay on constant until you turned them off. Great for treating a large area, not so great for treating specific points. But that's why we think the Fotizo is a better product, in that it's got the built-in frequencies for specific effects. So it's got all the power and all the benefit of the light, but it brings in that extra by using frequencies. So that's the kind of thing you can always try. And if you're not getting the results, there's a refund window. You can always return it and no problem.
All right. Can you evaluate chakras using Acugraph? Acugraph doesn't measure chakras, but in my personal experience, when the chakras are out of balance, so are the acupuncture pathways. Somewhere a couple years ago, I was getting a little bored. Could that be possible that I could get bored? I had been doing all of this study on acupuncture pathways and needles and all the different techniques, and my heart of hearts was telling me to go back and study healing touch. Now, mind you, I started as a massage therapist, so I have this propensity to want to touch the body. So I went and did healing touch, and that was a fascinating journey for me because I came back so excited. You go away to this healing touch weekend. I did 3 levels of training, and I learned to feel all of these things on the body, above the body. And then I came back and I'm like, okay, but I work with Acugraph. And so when I was doing my practice sessions, I really was curious, and I wanted to know what changes were happening in the body that I could measure, because I'm very much a girl that needs to measure and have proof. Even though I can feel it, I love it when I can then prove it to the world of what I can feel. So I had a patient come in, and I kind of felt the chakras and went, wow, this is way out of balance. And I thought, that's interesting. So I measured the pathways, and this patient was not really a patient, it was a friend. And so I did healing touch body work on that patient, and calmed everything down and did the things that I had been taught. And then light bulb went on, and I said, remeasure the pathways. So I went back and remeasured and had an absolutely perfectly green graph. And that was eye-opening to me, that all of the different modalities that tie together. I know that when the chakras are out of balance, the acupuncture pathways are out of balance as well. So, sorry, another phone here. So it is all interconnected, but you can't measure chakras with Acugraph, but you can be rest assured that when the acupuncture pathways are out of balance, so are the chakras. When you balance the acupuncture pathways, then you're also balancing chakras as well. So it kind of goes both ways.
Okay, Dr. Lubin says, why red Fotizo for inflammation and not blue? Great question.
I'll let you answer that.
There's a couple of different ways to address inflammation. One is through the wavelength, where the color of light, so red versus blue. But another way is by using frequencies that are specific to inflammation, meaning the number of times per second and the pattern that the light flashes on and off. It creates energy pulsations within the cell, and at specific frequencies, inflammation is affected and improved. And so using those frequencies, even using a red light at that frequency, is beneficial for inflammation. And then you bring in a synergistic effect, because you also open up the local circulation. You open the blood vessels, the capillaries, you get increased circulation, which allows more nutrition into the tissue and the removal of waste products through lymphatic flow. So all of those combined have a very positive effect on inflammation. And so that's how you can do inflammation with a red light, when you can kind of do all those tricks together at once.
So Heidi is here. Heidi is from the course that I taught in Europe. And so is Chantel. Chantel is here and Heidi is here. Chantel's waving hello.
We need Chantel to introduce herself at some point too, Kimberly. Go ahead and answer the question, and then let's meet Chantel.
Heidi works with horses, and she says the Fotizo is great for injuries with her horses and tendons in the legs. So that's awesome. Chantel, you need to come in and say hello. Unmute yourself.
How do
There.
I do that?
I did it.
We did it.
You did it?
We
Yeah.
did.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Oh, well, I work with frogs. But yeah, well, I'm Chantal. I'm from Amsterdam. I live in the Netherlands. And I organize for, I think, 4 or 5 years seminars in the Netherlands with the first 2 years with Adrian. And then I think 2 times or 3 times, now it's going to be the 5th time, I think, seminars in Amsterdam. And it is really a great success. People from all over the world came. From India, we had a doctor from India, Australia, everybody from the Acupuncture users, new users come, and it's really a nice place in Amsterdam to connect the Acupuncture users together. So it's really a privilege to work with Meridia.
And I would add that Chantel is also a distributor for us. She handles Europe and takes care of European customers and European distribution, and she does a wonderful job. And we're really excited you joined us today, Chantel. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Well, yeah, well, I want to teach myself, but I think I'm not that far. But I want to go to Germany and just do like a demonstration for Eggograph combination with another company, Laser Needle, and just start just with, I think, a half workshop day in Germany. So we wait and see. We wait and see.
Yeah, as soon as the world is normal again.
Yeah, yeah, when it's normal again. Yeah. So we wait and see.
All right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, great to see you.
Thank you. Great to see you too.
Okay, so let's get back to questions. Somebody says, Dr. Kimberly, did you say you use the Fotizo on grandkids?
I did. My husband and I have 17 grandchildren, believe it or not. We have one on the way, so number 18 is coming. But yes, I love to use the Fotizo on my grandkids. We have 9 children. That's why we have so many grandchildren.
And then somebody asked me, it came in privately, but I'm going to pose it to the whole group. It says, when I'm using my Fotizo, I notice that after 10 seconds, after 10 seconds after turning it on, then the light becomes brighter. Is that normal? And the answer is yes. As it goes through its pre-programmed series of frequencies and phases, what it'll do is you'll notice some differences and some shifts in how the light appears. So it'll appear to get brighter, dimmer, etc., as it goes through its pre-programmed course of treatment. That's totally fine, totally normal. That's how you know it's working. And by this, at the same time, somebody said, what's the difference between the human and the animal Fotizo lights? The answer is that it's the program. They have the very same array of LEDs, so the same high-powered red and infrared LEDs, but the human one runs a specific program. I think it's a 41-second program designed for humans using human frequencies, and the animal one runs a program designed for animals. And I think the animal program is slightly shorter. I think it's 31 seconds long, if I recall correctly. So that's the difference. Same device, different program.
So back in our seminar, in the recorded seminar, we didn't have the human one at the time. So we were talking about your children as animals, and
yeah,
we were joking with that. But we now have specific devices for both animals and human.
George says, with the Fotizo, do you leave it in one area the whole cycle it runs, or have you tried massaging with it moving around over an area? Any comments on comparison to the effectiveness of possible usage? What do you think, Kimberly? I've seen you do both.
I tend to, I'm going to turn it on right now, and if I'm working a pathway and I move and I find an area that's stuck, I stay in that area and let it continue its cycle until it's done. And then on the next round, I will move it up and down the pathway until I find another area that's stuck, and then I will hold it in that spot as well. It does tend to, you can feel where it sticks, especially if you're going down the urinary bladder channel, same as if you were running your hands down the channel and it sticks. The same thing happens with the Fotizo. So my goal is to open up the whole pathway. And as I'm running along and I find an area that's stuck, I will stay there and let it finish its cycle. And then I will continue to move through. My goal is to have it feel open all the way along the pathway.
Cool. All right. Let's see. Just looking for the questions here. Jared says, can you talk a little about the rapid release? I've been looking into this, would like to know the difference between RRT and other massagers. And yeah, this is a great time. We've been answering some questions about lasers and so on. Let's open it up to RRT and to vibrational therapy as well. Kimberly, do you want to address that, or do you want me to start?
You know, I'm assuming you guys have already watched the training, so you've seen the basic information. Rapid release happened by way of experimentation. I went to a symposium and met a gentleman who was sharing the rapid release in the acupuncture community, and people weren't really paying attention to him because, you know, we're acupuncturists. We're like, why do we want some massaging device? But I had a friend who said, Kimberly, you need to go feel that rapid release. And so I sat down and I allowed the guy to work on me, and immediately I knew that there was something different. This was not, I don't even have them anymore. My kids, they always think that they want to give me some massager for my birthday or Christmas because I'm always working on everybody else and they're not home to give me foot massages anymore. So they'll send me this massager, these things that I use on myself that like hurt when you're rubbing them on you. And they're nothing like what I experienced when I used the rapid release. So I did tell the guy who I was and what my goals were, and I was able to bring the rapid release home and start using it in my clinic and just do experimentation. And it started out with a hypothesis. I could feel what was happening when I put it on my body. It didn't, you don't just feel it at the place where you're putting it. It vibrates all the way through. You can feel it all the way to the internal organs. And so as I began doing research on it, what's unique about this device versus other device is the frequency of the device is 150 hertz. And when I had learned about the rapid release, we had just finished studying Nogier with Dr. Nogier, and I had learned about the different frequency tissues in the body, and he talked about the frequency, the frequency of fascia tissue throughout the body. And a light bulb went on, because this is very close, minuscule differences between the frequency of fascia tissue and the frequency that this device, and that's why when you feel it on your body, you feel it come all the way through. And so I buy into the theory that acupuncture pathways are related to the fascia tissue. And so I began my experimentation, and I was absolutely amazed at the changes that I found in my body. I was already very familiar with Acugraph. I was already familiar with, you know, a series of treatments and how long you would treat the patient, and all of a sudden patients were getting better faster, and I could feel fascia tissue resolving right under my fingertips. And so I remember taking it to Adrian and saying, we need to offer this device. And
what was my first response? Do you remember?
He's like, yeah, we acupuncturists have to be able to use this, and how are we going to sell it in the acupuncture world? And I said, well, we would have to teach them how to use it like an acupuncturist. And he said, yes, but there's no handbook. And he asked me to go create a user guide on how to use it like an acupuncturist. And so I said, okay, I will. And when I handed him my finished product, it was all of this. And he said, Kimberly, that's not a user guide, that's a book. And I said, yes. So I wrote the book, Move Blood, Stop Pain, and we decided that if we were going to sell it to the acupuncture world, you will be using it differently than chiropractors or physical therapists who are using it, because their general rule is put it on the area that it hurts, rub it around, use it, use it for 5 minutes and use it 3 times a week, and you're going to get good results. I'm like, well, if they're getting good results, what if they knew how to use it based on the flow of energy in the body, using it from acupuncture pathway to acupuncture pathway? And finally, the way I think like an acupuncturist came into writing in this book. If energy is stuck in the small intestine channel, where does it need to go next? After the small intestine channel, it goes to the urinary bladder channel. And if energy is stuck in the urinary bladder channel, where does it go next? It goes to the kidney channel. And so I wrote these theories in the book, Move Blood, Stop Pain, and we turned it into a book. We turned it into a product, and it has been a game changer in the acupuncture world. So something that physical therapists and chiropractors were using, I feel kind of excited that I got to be the one to introduce that into the acupuncture world. So when people buy it through us, they actually get my book and the training that goes with it. And it's been a fun thing. That was the year. That was the year the book came out, right?
Yeah, it was. And let me add a couple of quick thoughts. Regarding the specific differences in massagers. There are lots of massagers, quote unquote, out there that are kind of muscle massagers that are, really hard, deep penetration. So they move a lot and they're designed to kind of pound muscles into jelly. There's different ones you see in chiropractic and physical therapy and body work that are really heavy, powerful massage. And they're rather slow. Slow meaning how many times per second do they cycle? And as you mentioned, as Kimberly mentioned, the idea of the rapid release is that it cycles its frequency. In other words, how many times per second it cycles is very similar to the resonant frequency of fascia tissue. And that's what causes the fascia to be able to release, to open up, to move more efficiently, to break up adhesions, all of that. It has to do with the fact that instead of pushing hard and slow like a thumper, it is instead doing a very light movement but very rapid. That's the difference. That's why it's called rapid release. Totally different approach to a massager. So, and that's unique. That's why we decided that this is a product that we need to represent the acupuncture world, because it is unique. It's not the same as every other vibration tool out there.
And when you have the patient face down on the table, and if you do the treatment recommendation that I lay out in the book, when you're working the urinary bladder channel all the way down the back, you are affecting every back shoe point on the body. So technically you're jump starting the chi in all of the pathways before you even begin treatment. So I have used rapid release as a standalone root treatment. Instead of treating the very specific points based on the tonification sedation, sometimes I will just do the rapid release all the way down the back, and that becomes my root treatment. And patients absolutely love it, and it's been a game changer in the industry. I think we have a lot of comments over here.
Yeah, let's keep going. The language they use in Europe for Acugraph, English. The courses are taught in English in Europe, and the Acugraph software is in English. Dr. Lubin asks, are the frequencies just the different rates at which the light blinks, or is the light a carrier for the frequencies? It is the rate at which the light blinks. Most of them are too fast for the eye to perceive. We will perceive them as differences in brightness, but they actually are turning on and off many times per second. And although our eye can't perceive them, they have the biochemical or the photobiological effect that we're looking for at those frequencies. Marina says, RRT is a great product. Everybody likes it. It gives a great release, costly but great. Well, thanks, Marina. I'm glad to hear that. And yeah, it is not a cheap device. I know that there's a lot of cheap massagers out there, but it is very well built, very sturdy, lasts for years, and does a great job. Next we have There's a lot of people saying hi to each other.
We've got our Europe crowd all joining us today. How fun.
Yeah, wonderful. George says, I love rapid release, great for most patients. I found some people are too sensitive for the vibration or sound. Any practical suggestions or vibrational alternatives more tolerable for those people? Well, just like needles or almost any other modality, you'll always have some patients that are too sensitive or that don't respond well. A small majority or a small minority of patients. I don't have a different vibrational therapy tool that I recommend. I know that there are various smaller ones. They're not going to have the effect in the fascia, so I really don't have anything to offer. I would use something else like laser, where you're not going to have a sensitivity problem.
So for even my elderly patients really enjoy the rapid release. And I mean, there's a handful of people that they're just too weak for rapid release, and that's okay. Just some little tidbits. There are different heads on the rapid release, and the green, just this flat part, if I use this through the clothing, and I'm not pushing when I am using it, I'm just allowing the pressure of the device to do the work. And the muscular tissue is so superficial are the basic points on the acupuncture pathway. Just below that is the muscular pathway, and that's where you get the lymph moving and you get the blood flow through the smaller veins. So it doesn't take a huge amount of pressure. So, and there are people who like a little more pressure, and that's fine. But I would recommend somebody who is more weak to use it very superficial, and you don't have to put any pressure. And I would use this portion of the rapid release.
Okay. Let's see. Rusty says, I use the rapid release, Fotizo, Jade Mat, All Lights, lasers. I follow Kimberly's recommendations when she comes to Florida FSOMA. Cool. I concur. I follow her recommendations as well. Dr. Marks says, I purchased a rapid release at the symposium last year, along with several other devices, but Kimberly's book wasn't included with that. She mentioned several times that it's included. Did you start including it after the seminar? Is her book available to purchase? If you bought your rapid release from us, then the book is included. If you bought it from somebody else, it's not. So that would be the first question, is who you bought it from. If you did buy it from us, then you should have received the book. And if you didn't, then contact our office and we'll get that worked out for you.
I just left an email so he could contact us, and we'll see what we can find out.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Michael.
Michael P., the reports that come out from the Acugraph, the ones we give the patient, is it possible to have it in another language or create our own that we can make in French, let's say? Je suis désolé, mais non, ce n'est pas possible. You can't change the whole report. The graphs are in English, and there's no way to change that. What you can do is you can customize the meridian analysis report in Acugraph, and I can share my screen and show you where that is.
Okay, I was gonna say I could too.
Let me just put this up here.
So when I posted the email address for you to contact, I put info@meridiatech.com. That's not correct. Cameron helped us out there, and he put help@meridiatech.com. That's where you will.
That's the one. Yep. Okay, so if I am here in my Acugraph and I go under the settings button here at the top left corner, go to the settings icon and hit reports, then at the bottom you'll see this section that says meridian analysis information. It says you can adjust the text that appears in both your on-screen and printed reports for every meridian imbalance type. And so if I hit edit on the edit meridian analysis information, then here's the list of meridians, and here's a list of imbalances, and this is the text. So right now it says lung, excessive. This is the text that you get for excessive lung, and this is what it will put in the report. And I can edit this text, and I can change whatever I want, including putting it in a different language. So if I make my edits and save that, then that portion of the report can be in another language. The trouble is now it's locked to that language. That's what it's going to show each time, unless you go in here and put restore defaults. That'll take it all back to English. And you would need to do that for all of the meridians and for each of the imbalances. So there'd be a little bit of time involved in translating and putting that in there. But you could do that. And if all of your patients speak a specific language, French, for example, then you could go in, put a French translation for each of these and just leave it that way. We used to do a complete Spanish version, but found that there simply was not enough call for it to support the continued cost of doing it. So we didn't. So there we go. Let's keep going with the questions. That was Michael. Okay, Dr. Mark, if the vibration seems too much for some, you can try putting a towel, folded towel over the area to muffle it a bit. Hey, great idea. I've never tried that. That might work really well. Chantel says, I have 2 blue lasers, but one is a much stronger and wider light than the other. Is one defective, or do you have this often? Actually, what happened was there was a manufacturing change where they're both the same power. The newer ones, the light is a little more pinpoint, a little more precise. It's still the same power, but it's concentrated into a smaller area. The older style ones were a little bit broader area. So instead of a pinpoint, you would have a little bit larger dot. It's not a defect. It was just a slight change in the optics of the laser and how it collimates the light.
All right, so the other subjects that we had within the training for Module 3, we talked about the Stim Plus Pro. I don't know if anybody has any questions regarding that. I like to use the Stim Plus Pro for Jing well points. I like to use it for scar tissue imbalances. Love it for the ear. It is my device that I carry in my purse. I've used it at the airport to work on my family members. I have it when I travel. I think my favorite is when it's a family gathering weekend and everybody says, oh, you're here. I need a treatment. Did you bring needles? I say, no, but I brought my Stim Plus Pro, and I'll do a quick auricular therapy treatment on them.
And while we're on that topic, I wanted to point out that when we taught this seminar in, oops, I'm making noise here, sorry. When we taught this seminar in 2017, we did not yet have this device available. This is the Point of Select Digital, and this is a device that we now make available for auricular therapy as well. I'll get it held up in a second here. I had it all tangled up. Okay, so this is the device. This is the Point of Select Digital. This is the controller, and then it has a hand mass, and it has the probe. And this does 2 things that the Stim Plus Pro doesn't do. First of all, it does all of the Nogier frequencies so that you can have the precise frequency for every area of the ear. And then secondly, it does tonification and sedation. It'll actually automatically detect the polarity of the point and provide the correct stimulation. And so this is kind of the next level of advancement above the Stim Plus Pro. And we did a video where we actually compared and contrasted the 2 devices, because that's the #1 thing we get asked. Oh, well, what's the difference between the Stim Plus Pro and the Point of Select? And so I see that Kimberly is way ahead of us and just put up the link to that video. And so if you're interested in an electrical stim device, you want to compare and contrast a couple of them, check out that video. Good stuff.
That video is only 6 minutes and 51 seconds long versus the hour that I had the others.
There we go. Cool. Okay, Chantel says, I saw in a post that you can use a Stim Plus Pro in the ear of dogs. I've heard that too. I've never tried it, but there's no biological reason you couldn't treat animals with the Stim Plus Pro and do auricular therapy on animals. Sure. Kamal says, sometimes it does not change sound, even if the point is shown in Accugraph to be treated. What could be the reason? Good question. On the Stim Plus Pro, it changes sound based on how conductive the skin is. The more conductive skin is where the acupuncture point is located. Some points don't have a very high electrical conductivity, particularly body points. Ear points tend to have much more conductivity, and so you'll get a lot more sound variability. On the body with the Stim Plus Pro, sometimes you may not get as much sound variability. You can go ahead and treat the body point anyway. There's no problem with that. You know where the point is located, you can treat it, but it just has to do with the fact that body skin is thicker than ear skin. It just comes down to the biology of it.
When I'm using the Stim Plus Pro on the body, I use 20 hertz of electricity instead of the 5 or the 10. I use the highest level when I'm treating on the body. And like Dr. Larson said, you don't always find the sound on the body, but you will on the ear. The ears are a lot more sensitive. The points are so close to the surface.
So, and John says, is point of select basically a root treatment? Well, it can be used either way. If you're using it to balance the meridians, that's a root treatment. If you're using it to address symptoms, that's a branch treatment, and it can be used for both.
So it's used just like you would a needle. So you'll use some needles for your root treatment and some for your branch treatment. Just depends on what your treatment strategy is.
Okay, Amy says, what are your thoughts when using the Stim Plus Pro on the body and the point indicated on the graph is not active, but another point up the line is active? Okay, so there's a difference between the body and the ear here. With the body, you can search around with a point detector and find lots of points on the body, and finding a point that's quote unquote active, meaning electrically detectable, doesn't necessarily mean you need to treat that point. On the ear, when you find a point that's active, then yeah, that's a point to treat. On the body, if you can go further up the channel, you can find another active point. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to treat that other active point. Treat the point that's indicated by the graph to get the results that you want to get.
I'll answer the next one.
Go ahead.
How do you use Stim Plus for scars? Surround the dragon, and how close to or on the scars, length of stim, how often, if minimizing scar is the primary target. So that would then become your branch treatment. I would first put the body into balance. Then I would go to the scar, and I would definitely use a surround the dragon approach. If you were going to put needles around the scar, you would be feeling with your finger where is energy stuck around this scar, and you would put a needle in it with surround the dragon. The same would be using your Stim Plus Pro, finding the areas where energy is stuck, and I would treat how often. I tend to treat once a week when patients come in. If you are balancing the body first with a root treatment based on what you find in Accugraph, your scar tissue imbalances will resolve quicker because energy then has a place to go, and you're using the power of the acupuncture pathways, moving the way they're supposed to above and beyond just where it's blocked at the scar. So I would continue to watch that scar, 2 to 3 treatments in a series. And I think that would be my approach. I treat pretty close all the way around the scar, especially an older scar. If the scar is new, well, you're talking about Stim Plus Pro. So if I'm using the Stim Plus Pro, obviously I'm cautious if I have an open wound, right? You would never want to go onto an open wound. You do a surround the dragon approach. I've also used lasers for scar tissue. And so if the scar is newer and it's red and it's inflamed, I would use the blue laser. And if it's an older scar, I can get really good results for resolving scar tissue with the red. Because just think of that scar as old and energy's not working through it, and you're using the red and you're tonifying that area and you're bringing the energy up. So I probably answered more than what you asked, but that's how I would do it. That's
good stuff. Yeah, thank you. Kamal says, thanks, Kimberly. I don't do auricular, but I feel I will use Dr. Fratkin's system of muscle testing, and Stim Plus Pro will be more useful. Well, great. Absolutely. You can use it for that. Monique says, What about wrinkles with the laser, the red one? Well, okay, I see Kimberly's ready to answer. We haven't done a lot with facial rejuve. I know that there are people that have. It's just not a field we've gotten into much yet, although I find it very interesting. I tend to use microcurrent electricity for facial stuff more than laser light, but I know that light can be very effective. Do you have anything to add, Kimberly?
No, I was going to say, Monique, when you figure it out, will you send me a personal email, kimberly@meridiatech.com?
We'll all get rid of our wrinkles together. All right. Well, we'll give it another minute, see if anyone else has questions to ask today. Wow, we've covered a lot of good stuff today.
I'm going to go over my notes, just peeking real quick to see if there was anything else that I wanted to bring up. I think we covered all of it that I had planned.
Good, good. So I wanted to re-mention just a couple of quick reminders before we go. First of all, we found a typo in question number 7 on the test on this module. That's being addressed. So if you missed number 7, we apologize for that.
It's fixed.
What's that?
It's already fixed.
It's all fixed. Okay, good. And so from here on out, that's going to be fine. Secondly, the schedule, if you go to acugraph.com/hope, the schedule is all up there where you can avail yourselves of the next hangouts and so on. We're going to keep doing these hangouts. We appreciate everyone's participation. And then finally, I wanted to put a link up for those who have, and I explained this last time, we're really not in this to sell a bunch of stuff. This is not a sales pitch, but when we've done symposiums in the past, we've always offered specials at the symposiums where we do a live event. People learn about equipment, they want to get a deal. I don't blame them. Because we're not doing a live event this year, because we're doing it virtually the way this has worked out, we are still offering the symposium sale pricing. So if there is a tool that you feel you need, we've got some special pricing. Here's that link right here. I'll put it in the comments right now, where you can go to get the symposium specials. And this is not something that we're really advertising publicly. But again, not a sales pitch. We're just here to help you learn. We're here to give away some free CE credits and to enjoy a sense of community while we're all in isolation. And I want to thank each of you for helping us do that. Thus far, this has just been above and beyond our dreams for how well this has gone. And I hope you'll keep coming to the Hangouts, keep bringing the questions.
Can I share a little bit of excitement from the back end?
Yeah.
You all know that we are all working in separate places. Adrian's at the office, but nobody else is there. I think Jenny shows up in the afternoon on the other end of the office so that we can get shipping out. We've got our phone calls and chat figured out so we can all answer them from home. I heard this morning, are you ready for this? I asked Jenny, I said, how many certificates have we sent out so far for the continuing education for the 3 CEUs? Because for us, that was the one thing that we could do to give you guys to help you during this journey. And I was told that 300 certificates have already gone out. So Jenny asked me to let you know that now that they're coming in so fast and so strong, when you got your first one, it was probably immediate and she got it out to you right away. It may take just a little bit longer to get it back to you, but we are working on it. You know, we've got everyone from all different angles. And then I thought I had those little videos to show you, the little 1 minute and so many seconds. Well, they're actually a little longer. So if you want to know more and watch a webinar that we have done about laser or Stimplus Pro or rapid release or the Fotizo Vet Care, or the Point Select versus the Stimplus Pro, when this recording is finished, it will be, you'll be able to go to your Acugraph/Hope website and you'll notice the box that says that the recording is done. If you will click on that, then it'll take you to the YouTube of this recording, and then down in the comments there will be links so that you can get to those webinars. So
yep. Oh,
Okay.
and Michael asked, the certificates are just by email, right? Or is there something mailed? Yeah, they are just by email. And Jenny is currently working at her kitchen table. She sent pictures of, and her husband's home from work too, so they're both working at the kitchen table. And they set up books to make a little divider so they each have their own space to work. And she's working as fast as she can, getting those certificates out. I think Amber is helping from her home as well. So please be patient if the certificates take a couple of days, because we've had a far bigger response than we expected. So Kara says the recording will be up in the next 24 hours. And I think that finishes for today, but I see Kimberly ran away. I assume that means she's running to get something. Oh, yep, she's got to show us her puppy before we go. This is Jade.
Isn't she cute? She's so much fun. This is a great, and then my big dog Rocky is behind
And
me.
there's Rocky. All right. Bye, everybody. Goodbye, Jade. Thank you. We will see you Friday. Have a great week.